Hey there. Hope everybody's having a good week. We just had Author Luminary over the weekend, which was very exciting. I had two speakers, Katie Mazzocco and Melanie Calusi, come in and talk about how they use books for their business. And it was such an amazing event. I had so many people there who were very interested in writing books and they had lots of questions. And one of the things that we ended up talking about was vulnerability. And I wanted to share that with you guys today because I think this is something that a lot of writers can identify with. A lot of people, especially when they have a business and they're, writing isn't their main focus, but they want to write a book, feeling vulnerable through their writing is something that can kind of paralyze your creativity. So that was actually something we talked about a good bit, just kind of, offside conversations on Saturday at Author Luminary was, how people feel about writing when they have something important to share, whether they're sharing, their business journey or, uh, some personal experiences or tips and tricks for getting people over, over the hump. They feel like, maybe they're being judged a little bit, or sometimes you feel like, you don't want to share everything because it's very personal, and writing is a very personal thing. This is something that, you know, a lot of times people write and no one ever sees it. So when you sit down and you do have to write your book, it can feel kind of daunting when you feel like you're being really vulnerable. But I wanted to say that something we talked about was reaching that one person who really needs to hear your story and how that can drive you through the vulnerability. And you know, whenever you start feeling vulnerable, you can think of it that way. So it doesn't stop you from writing. Actually think about, who is this going to help? Yes, maybe there's somebody out there who's going to say, oh, I don't need this, or I don't understand what they're talking about, or, whatever sort of, you know, things are coming up. But someone out there definitely needs to hear it. So if you do run into a problem, think of it that way. Think of who you might help and whose life you could actually change by getting that story out there and helping them through it. And one of the stories that I actually talked about was a few years ago. I was like a hot mess mom. I had a newborn and I had a toddler and I was exhausted. I wasn't happy in my job. I was here at home a lot, just, yoga pants and probably spit up on my shirt and whatever else was going on. My hair was a mess. My makeup was non-existent. And I didn't feel great about myself. And my friend, Dr. Shelley, she came over to visit and brought her daughter with her to meet the baby. And while she was here, she actually handed me a paper for her radio show and said, hey, take a look at this, fill it out, see if, maybe there's a story here we could talk about on the show. And I just looked at her crazy, like, what are you talking about? I'm not inspiring. How would I inspire somebody? But now looking back at that, I mean, that was a really challenging time in my life. And, I got through it. I don't remember much of it, but if I wanted to write a book to help people through that part of their lives, with two little ones and trying to work and, carry on, that would be something that I would look back at. And someone else out there needs to see, hey, I overcame this and I actually, got through the tough part where, I had lost my job and I've started building another business. And here I am today. I'm much happier and I've got two kids who aren't totally dependent on me now. So that's always helpful. But, people need to hear these kind of stories and they need to hear tips for getting through those tough times. And I'm sure someone out there would have looked at me at that point and said, yes, you actually are inspiring. You did this, you did that. You had kids in your 30s. I don't know, a lot of people seem to have them in their 20s. Maybe that seems like an accomplishment to them. Somebody out there probably looked at me and said, you inspire me. And clearly Shelley saw something there that she thought might inspire others. So that's why I wanted to talk to you guys about this today, because, if you look at your story, find the points that you think might help other people and go ahead and write it. And, the vulnerability thing, it's going to be there. but you have to get over that to be able to reach your audience and connect with the people who most need to hear your story. So if you have any comments about vulnerability or how you felt about your story, go ahead and put them in the comments and we'll talk about them as I see them. So have a great day.